I'm going to call the meeting to order at about 6:05. There are a few adjustments to the agenda. We are going to delete under 5.0 reports to the board. We're going to delete 5.1.1 finance, budget, and facilities, as they didn't meet in February. We are going to, under 6.0 discussions matter, delete 6.1 policy. There's not a policy for us to discuss tonight. A reminder, under executive session, we are deleting 10.2 personnel, but we will still have 10.1 negotiations and contract. And Brendan, and when Aaron comes, can you stay for the beginning of that? I do need you guys to stay for the beginning of that. That would be great.
Lynn, one other thing is the policy committee hasn't met since the last meeting either.
So we can delete 5.1.4. Okay, that sounds good. All right. Before we get to audience and communications, just a couple of announcements. One, for the people who served on the CVU board with Kim Schmidt, and those who know her son Clark, who has been battling cancer. We found out recently that he has been sent home and is now on hospice. So the CVU community is reeling. I feel like it's been a year-long reel for the CVU community. So just keep Kim and her family in your thoughts. On a more positive note, Kate Grunling was just announced as a distinguished finalist for the Prudential Spirit of Community Award for creating a 5K run in honor of the Travis Manion Foundation. So congratulations on that award. And on the bittersweet, bitter for us, sweet for Kevin, probably, I just would like to acknowledge your time on the Williston School Board, the CSSU School Board, the CVSD School Board, the Facilities Committee. I don't know how many other committees you've been on, a lot of committees, but boy, when you're sitting down in Key West, enjoying your vacations, thinking of us up here, we're really going to miss you. And I think it was quiet fortitude that you present to the board. So thank you so much for your... Okay.
We're going to miss you, Kevin.
Yeah, we have a whole discussion item on how to replace you coming up later. On to audience and communications. I just want to say a few things before we get to audience and communications. First of all, I'm a big one on managing expectations because I like to know what is expected of me and what people in return can expect. So I just want to make clear that the purpose of audience and communications isn't to engage in a dialogue with the board or to expect an action to be taken as a result, an immediate action to be taken as a result of your comments. We value greatly the community's input, but in order for us to be an effective board, we need time to be able to discuss and plan and gather further input. So I just want to make sure that you all know that we welcome your comments tonight. Please don't expect any immediate action to be taken by the board. We will likely discuss next steps or ask someone to follow up, but there'll be no decisions made. I know there are a number of issues that people are wanting to speak on, and I think probably the fairest way to do it will be how they came into my inbox. So the first group that contacted me, I guess this is now about 2 weeks ago, was actually the Heinsberg Parents Club on class size. So if you all, there are a number of you who want to speak on different issues, and we also have quite a full agenda. So I am going to ask you to limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Could you maybe, total, could you maybe
Oh,
help me?
I get the lucky job of being the
Timekeeper.
timekeeper. So, for those who are speaking, and I don't know how much people want to talk, but trying to keep it to a couple minutes. And one of the things that the board usually asks is that once someone has a comment, let somebody else speak the next time. We're going to have single comments as we go through. Lynn's going to facilitate because she's the chair. I'm just speaking from past history of when we've had events when people have wanted to talk a lot. It's helpful if we have allow as many people to say something as they want to. And I have a keen eye on the clock, so.
I'm Kelly Bowen. Can I just say too before you speak, can you just introduce yourself so that we know?
Do we need to come up to the microphone to speak, or?
What, RETN, what do you need to happen? But if you could stand.
Yeah, we'll stand.
Okay.
We're gonna make one comment. I'm Kate Meyer. We're gonna
Thanks.
make one comment as a group of parents. I don't know if you want to stand up and just see who we are. You'll see many of our kindergarten, future first grade parents here. So our comment to the board, we're also handing out some information, and I emailed too. So I'll just begin. Hello, I am Kate Meyer, and I am here with many other parents from the Heinsberg Community School. I work at Heinsberg Community School, and I love my job there. But the most important job I have is as a mother, and it's in my child's best interest to advocate for him and his peers. Part of me advocating for our children means giving you a better understanding of what eliminating a first grade teacher means for our children at HCS. During the CVSD school board presentation on December 11th, slideshows showing teacher to student ratios were shared. HCS appears to have the lowest ratio of 16.8. Your attention was then drawn to a student to teacher ratio in Charlotte of 19. The explanation was given that 19 is high. It is because Charlotte has a second grade with 2 classes of 23 in each class. The data for HCS is misleading. The high student-to-teacher ratio in Charlotte is characterized as too high, but is exactly what will happen to our HCS first graders next year if the following budget proposed is adopted. The current proposed budget calls for cutting a first grade classroom at HCS, which will result in class sizes starting at 20 and 21. Each fall, several additional students are added to our first grade as families join our community. This means our class sizes will likely increase from the current proposed start of 20 and 21 students. The December 11th budget presentation also showed Williston adding 2 teachers because their current kindergarten class started at 20 this year. We also learned about Shelburne holding a teaching position in the budget to ensure kindergarten classes would meet the Vermont quality standards. Why isn't Heinsberg getting the same opportunity to address class ratios? What number does our first grade need to reach to maintain the 3 classrooms? The question now is this: how big is too big for first grade? As parents of these children, we are not comfortable with class sizes of 21, 22, or even larger. Heinsberg is a growing community attracting young families due to our outstanding schools. We believe class sizes of 20, 21, already outside the Vermont quality standards of fewer than 20 students per teacher, is too high. If the first grade class is taught by 2 rather than 3 teachers, our children will have significantly less time with the 2 remaining licensed educators, which means less individualized instructions for each child. This is inequitable compared to other schools in our district. At that age, it is especially important to have guidance and support, and this change will have a negative impact on their educational experience. Please take a look at the information we have provided about the current class size numbers for HCS. This will inform you as to the real class sizes for next year. We urge you to reconsider cutting a first grade position at Heinsberg. If 20 is too big in Charlotte, Shelburne, and Williston, isn't it too high for Heinsberg? Thank you. Yeah, and then the information we shared just is the current numbers and what we are understanding of Heinsberg so far, some questions. You can reach out to us if you have any more questions. I also know that you can reach out to the principals at Heinsberg if you're gonna kind of consider and pursue.
Thank you. In general, when it comes down to looking at how we do the budget in terms of class sizes, because actually this question came up last year in Williston, we tasked the administration to ensure that we meet EQS. So exceeding EQS in terms of having class sizes of 25, and I believe that it's K through 3 class sizes under 20. It's a you take all three and then you divide all 4 grades and then you divide it to see how many you get per grade. So it's not just 20 students per class in kindergarten, 20 in first, 20 in second, 20 in third. It's 20 K3. But we task our administration to come back to us and tell us where we need those teachers. And so I would think, and I know that class sizes are tricky, especially with kindergartens being such an unknown.
I would just make one clarification. While we were looking at Shelburne, and we might have, even used that school as an example, the position that is in the budget isn't targeted anywhere. It will be used where we need it. Your situation is no different than Charlotte's. It's exactly the same. They have the same numbers as you coming in terms of like sections for next year, and they have the same situation as you, which is very, very small kindergarten classes this year compared to everybody else. So I meet with the principals almost weekly now. I just did this week to go over what are the kindergarten numbers now. We had someone from the central office gather the information from the providers, the private providers, and from our own preschools to see if those numbers match up. We did early registration this year so we can be a lot smarter about what it is we're looking at. And we continually have the conversation every time I meet with the principals in Heinsberg and in Charlotte about how else can we handle these class sizes? Are there other ways? Because it's probably not going to be the last time that you have a class of 35 one year and 42 the next. And that's hard to divide by 2 and 3 and get to any number that anybody's happy with, and it's equitable, right?
Do you collect data on like trends of students moving in between first and?
And in fact, every 3 years, we have, NESDEC, which is an outside agency that looks at that, give us their forecast for what it's going to be. They are not very good at forecasting kindergarten, I can tell you that. They're not very good at forecasting 9th grade either. And so that's why we have this year somebody from the central office doing some of that work for us.
So I think what you can expect to see is that, we have to craft a budget by a certain date, right? It has to get out before the community. But that there's a lot of moving pieces within that, and that once that budget number is known, it doesn't mean that everybody stops looking at all the pieces that go into it. And I would expect that Elaine and her team would come back to us and tell us, hey, which is what happened in Williston last year, look, we really do need this position. So it's not signed, sealed, and delivered. It's hard because it isn't black and white. It's an unknown, but we're aware of it, and I appreciate you coming.
And I think that was, we wanted to put that on your radar, is that the numbers may look low, but if you look really at the numbers broken down by how our school is set up, there's one class, and then there was a 3rd grade class also that are really high due to, so, thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you for and thank you for the time that you put into this. I would look at this. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for coming and just bringing it to the board. And historically, we have made adjustments up until like right before school starts. But in the future, I just wanted to cue people in, whoever's speaking in the future, when you have 1 minute left, I'm just going to hold that up. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next email is the Racial Alliance Committee that I got. So same, is everyone speaking, or one person speaking?
Yeah, we'll all be speaking a little bit.
Okay. Try and keep it.
Yep, under time. Yep. Thank you.
We can
Do you
share.
need more? We'll share.
We can share. Thank you.
So hello, good evening. We are the student co-leaders of CVU's Racial Alliance Committee. This is a new club at CVU. We just started this school year, and we're here to propose to raise the Black Lives Matter flag at CVU. We understand that you might not be able to take action on this, but we still hope you consider this proposal as we spent a lot of time putting this together for you.
All right, so we propose that the Black Lives Matter flag will be raised at CVU in honor of Black History Month. We affirm that Black Lives Matter is a peaceful and empowering grassroots movement advocating for racial justice and collective liberation. By raising the flag, we hope to make CVU a more inclusive and equitable environment committed to making all members feel welcome and appreciated.
The racist and anti-Semitic hate speech found at CVU this past month is a clear indication that our school has a deeper problem than just ignorance or lack of awareness regarding race. Our curriculum and culture do not educate or advocate for racial equity nearly enough. Raising the Black Lives Matter flag as a united school community is a positive step our district can take to bring meaningful change and necessary conversations to light. Raising the flag is a public declaration that yes, the lives of our Black students and community members of color do matter and should be valued as such.
In addition to the educational work RAC has done this year, we will be holding a school-wide assembly on Wednesday, February 20th, educating the student body on Black History Month and Black Lives Matter. The following day, advisories will discuss new learning from the assembly. Before the end of March, we propose to raise the Black Lives Matter flag on the flagpole outside of CVU during a brief ceremony. In following years, the flag will be raised every February 1st and it will fly for the rest of the school year. There will be no uncovered expense to the district at large.
CVU's core principles are to respect each other, respect this place, and respect ourselves. That narrative would be incomplete without showing due respect and recognition to students of color, as diversity only strengthens our community. It is a job of CVU, and not just RAC, to start discussions, raise awareness, and lead by example in dismantling hate and white supremacy. Now more than ever, we must rise up from unfortunate events to tackle issues head-on with not only words, but with actions. This is why we should raise the flag. We thank the student leaders from Montpelier, Burlington, and South Burlington High School for paving the way in this brave endeavor. We thank you guys for your time and consideration regarding our proposal.
Thank you. And I think you guys have worked with the student.
Council?
Correct.
Somewhat. Okay,
Yeah,
and you understand that we have to put it on as a discussion matter, and then the next month it's a action matter.
Yeah.
So I know your proposal says by the end of Black History Month. May not happen this year.
Actually, this year we're proposing to raise it by the end of March because we know the timeline is working against us. But hopefully in following years, it would be the start of Black History Month. So we are allowing some time, proposing that some time is allowed in March.
Is there, I noticed when I was walking in school this morning for a meeting, is there a reason you couldn't put I know the idea is to get it out public, and that's what this proposal is for. There are flags in the cafeteria. Could you put it in the cafeteria? Could work with the administration to put it in the cafeteria for Black History Month this year? We still have, 2 weeks left? Is that something, maybe? Well, they only have 3 days left of school. 3 days left of school.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's in place of this, but just until we're able to take action. Because I know our process moves at a much slower pace than other ones. Is that something?
Well, I believe that is something that we could do before actually taking action, but I feel like with something especially like this, we feel like it sends a much stronger message going all in rather than halfway in.
Sure.
So of course, raising the flag in a place like the cafeteria, where there will definitely be a large number of the student body that will be able to see the flag, that should definitely have some impact. But we feel like overall, just sending a message to our community as well, we feel like at the flagpole, it would definitely bolster the message that we are trying to send within the community.
But I do think in the meantime, it would be a possible solution while you do your
Yeah,
process.
I'd have you work with, work with Adam or whoever your group would be to do that.
Just a clarifying question.
Yeah.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the discussion matter would mean it would be on our March meeting, and then we wouldn't be able to take action until April, and that's why you're asking if in the meantime. So I think what Lynn is just saying is we wouldn't be able to take action until probably the third week of April. Is that correct? So I think that was why you were clarifying that it might not be able to happen by the end of March.
Correct. I mean, it would go on the work plan for this year,
Oh, I see.
but I can't guarantee that that it would happen by the end of it couldn't happen by the end of March.
Right.
Do they need our blessing?
Yes.
Okay.
They want your blessing.
Well, I'm happy to give it, I just didn't know if they needed it.
So thank you, and you'll certainly know when it comes up up for a discussion matter
Any other questions?
in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Okay, the third, I'm going in order of emails again. Peter Antonozzi.
Yes. Hi, I'm Peter Antonozzi. I'm a senior at CVU. I know we just had this presentation, but I needed to say some things that I know were in the thoughts of some CVU students, not just myself. There are others who think like I do. My opposition to this is not about Black Lives Matter. It's not. It's about the space that the flag would operate within. The United States flag, for me, is something that means that no matter what happens, no matter who you are, no matter what your beliefs are, you are an American. And I feel that same way with the state of Vermont flag, that no matter who you are, no matter what beliefs you hold, no matter what, you are part of the state of Vermont. And I think that something that says unity, that says, you are one of us, is a space that should be respected. I'm bringing up this example, I'm going to bring up an example not to have any tears, not to list anything, but just because it clarified my position. My grandfather died a few months ago, and we buried him at Arlington. He served in the Army for 15 years, and then after that served in the post office for the rest of his working career. And it very much solidified in me what that flag means, which when you look out, there are all those people that fought and died for the flag and for what it means. And I'm not saying that raising the flag would disrespect that. I'm just saying that no matter who they were all part of Arlington National Cemetery. And so I would be more than amenable to having the flag in the cafeteria. I think that's the right place for it. We already have the LGBT rights flag there. I think that's an indication that that's where those flags go. I think that there is a compromise here to be made. My opposition is not to the flag. My opposition is merely to where it would be placed. I feel that the flagpole is a sacred space which should not be put where movements do not mean the same thing as the state of Vermont. A country and a state is more than any movement can be. And so I feel that the flag of movement is not, its proper place is not with those flags. It is in the cafeteria or somewhere else. Thank you.
Peter, can I just ask a question? Because
Yes.
the email that I had gotten from you said, you stated what you've stated here, but you were actually looking for us to develop a policy. Are you still looking
Yes.
for a policy that would state that the only flags to be flown outside would be the U.S. flag and the state of Vermont flag?
Yes, I would like to craft a more permanent response to this than just a one-time response to, and not to just Black Lives Matter, but to any movement that wants to put flags up there.
Okay. And so I think that what you're asking for is a specific policy that would be initiated within our policy committee.
Yes, I'm starting to get the ball rolling on that, and I'm looking to develop that further.
Okay, all right, so those will be the next steps.
Yes.
For your group. Okay, thank you. Does anyone have?
So I think that people might want to know that the way the policy works is that there's a policy committee, it will get discussed in committee, there's a couple principals that serve on that committee, and then it comes to the board to discuss before they might even send it back to the committee, and they are gonna discuss some more. So it's not just a committee that makes a decision, the whole board has to discuss. And again, just like the situation with discussing raising the flag, policy has to come for discussion first and then come back the following month for action. And it happens often with new policies, just like I think we have one this month, that it comes back to the board several times. So I just want to make sure everybody knows it's not a quick thing.
And the full board charges the policy committee to look into policy and what it would mean, so we're a slow-moving body sometimes.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks. Okay, Adora and Amy, are you both speaking or separate?
Separately.
Okay, so then I'm gonna go on the same issue.
Correct.
Okay, so then I'm gonna just go who signed in first, and that would be Adora.
And it's actually Dora and Lydia.
Oh, okay.
Lydia didn't sign that, she signed the other. Oh. This is Lydia Clemens, so she should be on the list too.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I am Lydia Clemens, and I'd like to thank the board for your service to our community. I'm here as a member of the group of parents who wrote the board a letter in response to recent incidents of racism and anti-Semitism at CVU, specifically the drawing of swastikas and the writing of the N-word on the bathroom walls. The parents who worked together on that letter have kids who attend most of the CVSD schools. We have African American and Asian American children, Jewish children, kids of European ancestry and Christian backgrounds. We're here on behalf of all of the kids who are served by CVSD, those who are in the majority and who need to be educated about creating an inclusive society, and those who are vulnerable because they're in small numbers and they are being targeted. Some of us have served for years on diversity committees in the district. Others of us are new to the conversation. Unfortunately, we have all had experiences with racial harassment, anti-Semitism, and other forms of harassment in the district that has spanned years. We also know families who have left the district because of persistent racial harassment here, and what they felt was inadequate protection by the schools.
We're not here to blame anyone, but rather to offer help. In the open letter that we sent you, we have outlined the actions that we propose on the part of the district. First, that the board issue a clear statement to the school and community condemning these actions. Second, that the board develop a formal zero tolerance policy for acts of racism, intolerance, and hate. Third, that the board create and fill a diversity and inclusion specialist position. Fourth, that the board increase the diversity of the teachers and staff at CVSD schools through proactive hiring practices. And fifth, that the board support the development of a parent community diversity action team to work alongside staff and students. Some of these items, some of us have been requesting for years. We want to emphasize that although our letter was ignited by the racial and anti-Semitic incidents occurring at CVU over the last couple of weeks, these are not isolated events, nor are they specific to CVU. And because of the cultural climate of our country right now, it's very likely that such events will increase in frequency and severity unless we counter them boldly, creatively, and with a united front. To that end, we offer our supportive collaboration as a parent community group ready to work with staff and students to make our schools safer and stronger for everyone. We respectfully request that you place this topic on the agenda for the board meeting next month as well to continue the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for your letter and your suggestions. I think the board actually does have an agenda item under discussion matters for our response. This is the first time that we've had an opportunity to meet since this has happened. So we'll be discussing what our response will be for that. And I think Adam and Elaine will be meeting in the near future with
Well, Rebecca has.
Rebecca Haslund and Jeff.
And maybe some others.
So it's definitely a to be continued and will be on our work plan in the remainder of our year here. So thank you.
Can I ask when the past requests for those items, like I don't recall them in the last year or two coming before our board in terms of, I mean, they sound like some really good ideas, but I'm just wondering if I missed something.
Are you talking about the items that they've requested? Have they been requested at the CVSD board or at
No,
individual?
we sent them in a letter that was distributed to you a couple of days ago.
No.
I mean, you're talking about them being requested for years?
Some of us were members of diversity committee at Charlotte
CCS.
Central School.
Okay.
And spent several years doing that work, and some of these ideas were worked on there as well, or presented there as well.
I just wasn't aware of the Charlotte history. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and Adora is a former board member.
Yeah.
And so familiar with our district from that perspective as well. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Anything else on that?
Thank you for your letter.
Amy?
Hey everyone, I'm Amy Brocious. I am the parent of a CVU student and a CCS student. I was also a signator on the letter that you received. I just wanted to mention a couple of additional things about that. First, kind of a personal issue. My daughter read that letter that we submitted to you last night, and she was upset by it. In no uncertain terms, she told me, white people do not get to say that word. And despite my assurances to her that half the letter's authors are African American and that it was a conscious choice to include that word in the letter, she was still very, very dismayed. And she's right. White people do not get to say that word, and they should not. And if only that were true, we wouldn't be standing here tonight. I can share with you that I think unless there are very clear mitigating factors with respect to, for example, a child's cognitive abilities, I think it's more than a fair assumption that students in high school know what a racial epithet is. They know what a swastika means. They know that these are trademarks, in essence, for hate or for division or for dehumanization. And I can just conclude by saying the enemy here, I think, is our own indifference. As President Obama said, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We need to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who? Thank you all for coming out. It's, it's at the bottom of your email, and it's essentially, in the midst of turmoil, look for opportunity, and I feel like this is our opportunity. We are the hope. So thank you very much, and this will continue. Our agendas are posted at least a week before the meetings. They're on our website, so if you're wondering when a topic is going to come up, check the website. Feel free to email me and the board, and let's work together. So thank you.
If I could just say one extra thing. I know there were many times where we said that our board moves slowly. I think a better adjective would be to say that we're very deliberate. And there are many minds on this board that have many great ideas. And as an example, last year when the Parkland shooting happened, we wanted to issue a statement, and we spent a lot of time writing this statement and carefully considering it as a board item. And I believe that is exactly what we're going to do with respect to this entire issue. So I would much rather use the word deliberate than slow.
Good point.
Madam Chair, in light of that, and in consideration of what I think is a reasonable request from these students, I'd like to make a motion that the board can use special meeting in March for the speed up process, so that we can
Discussion?
So would this be, would you
Well,
care?
my thought was,
Yeah, you'll be off the board.
no, my thought was that if you could get a meeting in either before or after your regular meeting, that gets you into discussion and action before we get to March.
Action at that March meeting, at the scheduled March meeting, you're saying?
Well, either you need to have another meeting either before, probably before that. See action.
Such as our committee meeting, that's on the first Tuesday of every month.
But actually, that is our annual, oh no, that's on the 4th. It is our committee meeting on the 5th. Okay.
What we're talking about right now is we have 2 meetings a month. Our first meeting of the month is a committee meeting where we break out into committees. And our second meeting of the month is a regular board meeting like this. And what you're hearing now is deliberation about whether to add something on to our committee meetings prior to breaking into committees. So that's what's going on right now.
So you would like the discussion on the 5th prior to the committee meetings? Is this your motion that you're proposing?
I mean, if I could, yeah. I'm not sure that we can just make a motion in the midst of a conversation that we're having here, and then, I have no issue with what you're talking about, but I'm not sure that making a motion and seconding it and then expecting us to all vote on it, after these folks have just presented, is how this should be handled. If we want to have a discussion or an action item, perhaps you're adding it to the agenda, making an adjustment to the agenda at this point, but I think it just has to be handled properly and within kind of the rules of how we operate.
So to the best of my knowledge and with a quick consultation of Robert's rules, I believe that if a motion is made by a board member and seconded by another, it's valid for discussion, that's all, and valid for vote.
Well,
Not an action.
no, I'm a policy person, and I've looked enough at our policies this past week. If 2/3 of the board request an item to be put on the agenda, it can be put on the agenda. So if 2/3 of you would like this to be
I
on,
just want to be clear, I'm not asking for anything to be put on the agenda, I'm asking for something to be put on the agenda at the future meeting, which is.
Can we tag it onto a committee?
right.
You know, expectations, and I'm hoping it gives enough due process and time for people to reflect, so that there can be valid discussion a little bit earlier.
Our committee meeting.
And actually, that is something that we did last year with the Parkland resolution that I brought before the board, because I brought it, and it then was a discussion matter, but voted on for a discussion matter for the next meeting before any action is taken.
I just think, an appropriate way to handle this would be to ask that we're making an adjustment to the agenda. We've got, item 7 is action matters. If we want to have an action matter on this and it's an adjustment to the agenda, to me, that would be the proper way of handling it. I don't pretend to have Robert's rules memorized, but again, I don't think we just make motions and take action in the midst of any conversation that we happen to be having.
We don't. But just a straw vote, then a straw
Straw
vote.
vote is fine.
I'm unclear what, is the discussion about adding something to our
Committee
first
agenda.
March
Yep.
committee agenda?
Yeah. Does anyone have
I-
a
I'll
straw
amend the
vote?
motion if you want to make it part of the committee agenda. Doesn't need to be
I
separate.
don't even think that needs to be a motion.
I don't think
We
so.
can
Is there a
just do it.
straw, is anyone opposed if we add to the committee agenda on March 5th? This
We can just
discussion
do it, we
item?
don't have to vote on it.
Okay, straw vote. Okay. We will add that
So
to the
we're
beginning of the
directing our
minute.
chair, the chair creates the agendas for us with the superintendent, so I think the straw vote is directing the chair to add an agenda item to our first
A discussion item.
discussion item to our committee night. Is that right?
Okay.
And before that meeting, we could just get a clarification on who is a board member and who is not, because that is actually town meeting. And when do terms expire, and when are board members no
Midnight.
longer eligible?
Oh, no, and they've got to be sworn in.
Well, no, I don't want to mess the
No, but,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but Ray,
Okay.
Ray and I are both up for reelection.
Re-election.
I'm not sure who else is.
I think you serve until midnight.
Until replaced.
Well, but there's
All
no
right.
contested elections.
Right. I think if it's
So
not a
there-
contested
okay.
election, you can be there.
Mark and I will work on making sure that, well, yeah, we're,
7 o'clock because of town meeting day, that meeting?
I think it would be, we held it at 6 o'clock last year, even though it was town meeting day. We had our committee meeting on town meeting
I won't be able to
day.
be here until 7.
You won't be able to be here?
We have conferences in Colchester that day. I mean, I really want to be a part of this discussion.
I'm just
but we have
thinking, is this the
conferences till
best time to
6:30
do that, considering it's town meeting?
that day.
To add a very important thing to a committee agenda on a town meeting day? Because then, you know, there's other people who may want to attend their town meetings and adjust their.
Town meeting is
This is on Tuesday, that's Australian ballot day.
Right.
I think all of the towns in our district, point being,
voting.
Meetings are Monday.
the actual town meeting is on Monday night. And then Australian ballot, and yeah, the polls close at 7, I think, but Australian ballot is on Tuesday. So unless somebody can't get, to the polls prior to the start of our meeting or has some other issue or some other conflict, it's not like our meeting is gonna conflict with one of the actual town meetings that any of the towns will be
Another
holding.
option might be to have the discussion at the at the scheduled March board meeting and take the action
Oh.
at the April meeting.
the
That would
first.
just, it might be more fair, given that there are a lot of people
Yeah.
who are just be coming back from vacation, it is town meeting day, and
And it would be the first Tuesday in April. It wouldn't
Right.
be
it wouldn't
the
be a.
third Tuesday in April.
So suffice to say, there are many moving parts, and we will do our best to warn
Act
a
quickly.
meeting 7 days in advance if we do add it to the agenda. I don't think anyone is disputing wanting to add it to the agenda.
It's just
We just want to make
logistics.
sure that we give everyone the opportunity to participate.
If we are having a discussion at the beginning of committee meetings, that is open to the public.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I guess I would put in, I think it's important, though the annual meetings happen on Monday night, I don't think it would be great form for us to be holding that meeting, and I anticipate there could be quite a bit of public input or audience there that night before voting has ended on town meeting day. It just seems like a
Okay.
Well, and it seems to me that we have the opportunity for a deep conversation or starting conversations, just because of Lydia and Adora's and Amy, I think, who spoke to other issues, and they're intertwined, they're related. My guess is that there will be a lot of interest in our conversation, and I don't see us completing anything in one fell swoop.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is that kind of where we started. It'll be sometime in March is when we will probably hold the discussion. I can't tell you right now if it's going to be on that Tuesday or if it's going to be the second Tuesday. It's sounding like it might be better to hold it the second Tuesday at our regularly scheduled board
At the
meeting.
third Tuesday of the month,
Right,
at
the
our
third
second meeting
Tuesday.
of the month.
I appreciate wanting to get this done by the end of March, I do, but I think what I'm hearing is that the third Tuesday might be the better.
I don't want to, only because my time conflict, I don't want to be unclear here. I didn't intend that and that it shouldn't happen then. I concur completely with Kelly and Kevin that I think this is timely, and a timely response is really important. And I think that we have a lot of community input right now and a variety of perspectives, which this board doesn't generally have a lot of, and so I don't see any reason why we would, I think that that's a reason to move more expeditiously. So the concern over 6 o'clock versus 7 o'clock, I did not mean for myself, that I think it should be later in March. I think we should deal with it as soon as possible, and it doesn't seem unrealistic to me that that could happen on town meeting day. I don't think it should happen during town meeting day, because people are literally voting on our budget during that time.
Okay.
I think it's important, though, that we're clear on which issues we're trying to address expeditiously. Making a decision on the flag proposal is somewhat less complicated than the issues that were put forth in the letter.
Okay, let me be really clear. What I'm hearing is that this is the flag proposal, is what we would be discussing. The issues that were addressed and presented in the letter will also be addressed, but there is not a timeline yet for that. I'm speaking specifically about the flag. Am I?
That was my motion. My
Okay.
motion was very specific.
Thoughts? Anyone else?
I just feel strong, I think that I just agree with Aaron, Kelly, and Kevin, and I feel like if we can do it, that we should be doing it, just making a decision one way or the other, which requires we have a discussion, and then we have an action matter, and I think that we could do it on the 5th, do the discussion, and then do the action on the 3rd, which, whatever is that date.
We could do the committee meetings. It's
After.
just you and me on indicators. We could do that committee meeting anytime. So we could hold it at 7 o'clock and do the committee meetings first.
Do the committee
at 6
meetings
o'clock.
first at
Yeah.
6, yeah.
Why don't we do that? Brennan?
I also want to be careful and just remind the board that we're a policy board, we operate with policies, we operate within, traditional ways that we've done things all the time. So we have to be careful not to communicate and set an expectation that you'll have a decision within a week or two, because there may be policy work or other things that we have to do. We're committing to you guys, and I'm speaking for myself, to resolve this and make a decision, but we have to stay within the parameters that make us a successful board.
Okay, not to get too far out of the audience and communication intent. So the intent is to get this done in March. I will sit down with Elaine, since you and I are the
Yep.
ones that put together. I hear there is a desire to do this the first Tuesday. We'll look at the March agenda, the entire March agendas, and we'll let you guys know if everyone is okay with that. Okay, thank you. 4.0, presentation/discussion. This is the long-awaited continuous improvement plan. And the Indicators Committee has spent the entire fall and last month going deep into the continuous improvement plan, which is a very detailed document. And so we have tried to figure out the best way to get you all proficient in the CIP, because we're going to be asked to approve this next month at the board meeting. So the way we're going to do this is Jeff's going to start kind of with a brief overview of where this CIP, the genesis of the CIP. We're going to break into two groups. I know, we're going to break into two groups. You've been assigned to a group, even better. So that you can really deep dive into, there are 4 sections of the CIP. You can deep dive into the 2 sections with the experts in those 2 sections. We'll then switch. So you will get both the proficiency personalization, SEL, and MTSS sections of the CIP. As you're kind of hearing all of this information and asking questions in the back of your mind, if you could think about how you see using this information as a board, because that's kind of what will come out as indicators. Any questions?
Thank you. So my role here is to contextualize the continuous improvement plan, why we have to do one, how we built it, and what's in it. What is in it will be handled by the indicators committee folks in those 2 groups. What I want to start with, however, is there's no way that you can really grapple with the depth of the continuous improvement plan, the amount of links that exist there that describe some of the work that's being done. So if you still want a deeper dive, I would love to sit with you and spend time with you between now and the next meeting in March. Please just send me an email, and we can find a time for me to be able to go into greater detail than we can provide tonight. Okay, so the Purpose here is to ultimately get board approval for the CIP. I'll talk a little bit in a moment about state expectations around that. But we'll primarily talk about why is the CIP necessary. It's a new expectation, and who was involved in the creation and monitoring of it. And then you will learn again about what's in it. The package you have in front of you, probably the most useful diagram I think we've looked at in the indicators committee is that diagram that you've got on the cover of the packet. It explains the accountability measures, federal and state. And I'm going to go through and explain most of those layers. I will not spend any time on ESSA. It is what replaced No Child Left Behind, and it sort of drives what lives beneath it. The states are required to come up with plans to meet ESSA, and so I'm going to go ahead and describe a couple of those. The first one, you know about education quality standards, and you know the 5 that live within that, that heading. And those are the boxes, and I believe I was told green today. I thought it was yellow because I'm colorblind, but she told me it was green.
No, it's totally yellow.
Thank you, thank you. Then beneath it, these are both new structures. The state is providing an annual snapshot for each district based on a number of data points. And we will be getting our first snapshot this year. We were supposed to have had it by January. It is not here yet. It is based largely on things like SBAC results, other common assessment results. They're building some surveys to try to meet some of the things like around personalization, climate, some of the social emotional learning pieces. And so some of the things are still in process in terms of being established or being built. But there will be an annual snapshot. And I could spend a whole presentation just on that, but that's not why we're here.
Jeff?
Yes?
What's will data? Will data. Annual snapshot provides schools will data.
It's supposed to say when.
So it should say with, and by the way, I took this right off the state's website. I did not write that. And here are the 5 domains that we will get the snapshot on. We will get data, and they actually create a formula like within academic proficiency. Math will be worth 20%, ELA will be worth 20%, science is like 10%, PE I believe is 5. I'm doing this by memory, and I'm sure I'll have to stop there because I don't remember the rest of it. But that's an example. Okay, then on the other side is integrated field reviews, and these also are new, and we just experienced our first integrated field review. They call them IFRs. We had 22 teachers and Vermont Vermont board members. What am I trying to say? State, thank you. AOE, thank you. AOE members visit our district, go to all of our schools. They had small teams that were focusing on specific categories within EQS. So they might have been focusing on proficiency or personalization or investment priorities. And they are going to give us a report. They're quite close to being done with the report. For each of those 5 categories, there are subdomains. And for each of the subdomains, we will get at least 2 evidence statements about each subdomain, and 2 commendations and 2 recommendations from this group. So that is information I will be bringing back to the indicators committee first to look at and to chew on, and then share with the full board once we have that. Okay? So those are those accountability measures. And now the final one is the continuous improvement process. So I'm going to jump to this. It was 2 years ago in May. I was at a meeting around federal grants. In my role, I have to manage a lot of federal grants. And at that meeting, they told us, by the way, there's a new expectation that everybody have a continuous improvement plan. This is a brand new thing. We've been doing action planning before. It was not like we were completely foreign to the concept. But this particular approach was new, and the template was new, and the expectations were new. And this was May, and they said, by the way, it's due next March. Go build this comprehensive plan as inclusively as you can, with as many stakeholders as you can. Go get them. And the challenge there, of course, was that we already had a full plate in terms of what our professional development goals were, And so what we had to do was really look at, and we were deeply immersed in Act 77 implementation, as you well know. And so we had to create an approach that had leader representation from each school, who were acutely aware of where we were and the work we were doing, the work we valued, and then reach out to different stakeholders, different groups, got our faculty members and staff members to have feedback in creating this. So we had a lead design team last year focused specifically on creating the continuous improvement plan, and like I said, we did those reach outs. And now we've this year shared it with the board's indicators committee as well. So one of the expectations in the continuous improvement plan is that there are 4 phases in continuously improving. And they are, as they're written up there, the first thing you do is you do an assessment of your system, and then you come up with goals. You come up with innovative ideas to address that data. The second thing is to then, once you've created goals, is to go and test them. Create some pilots, test them out. And then the third is to start implementing them. And then fourth is to sustain them. And the way the state created the expectations is that each year you add a phase. So what was due last March was phase 1. Okay? So when we went to build this, we realized that we had been doing so much work around some of the things that we put in our continuous improvement plan, that to create a plan that had the next natural goal, let's say, for proficiency, it lacked the context of everything that came before it. And it looked almost like it just stood out there alone, like there was nothing beneath it. There was no foundation. And so we said, we're going to build the whole plan. So we built as much of the plan as we could. We've got a number of things in many different phases, as you will see in a moment. And what that is going to do is provide the context for you to understand why the phase 1 goals are what they are, and how they are related to everything that's been done before it. Okay? And it'll become more clear when you take a look at it. And then the last piece I want to show you before you get started here is that, let me just escape here. Is that for the phases beyond phase 1, you then have to do a plan, do, study, act cycle for those goals. So you have to show that you're actually working on these goals that you say you were going to work on. And you have to create goals within the goals and track data. So this is an example. You won't be seeing these tonight, but they do live there, and it will be built as we move goals along the continuum of the phases. But this is an example of a PDSA cycle that we built for one of the goals that is in phase 2 around common learning targets. You've already seen in earlier presentations that we do have common learning targets across the district. And these were the goals that we set forward, and it has to be plan, do, study, act. And then I have begun updating where we actually are by putting the targets in there and by putting some common target data. And this is stuff that I will then be submitting back to the state yearly. Okay, so let's get you to why we're here. So you'll see what it's looked like. The team settled on 4 primary categories. They are proficiency, personalization, MTSS, which you've heard quite a bit about in past years, and social emotional learning, which was the focus last year of many of our presentations. And what you also have in the packet is a status report that I created. I took the CIP that we actually built, and there is a link in there for you if you want to take a look at it at some time. But I tried to distill that into something a little more palatable, easier to understand. And so what you've got in that packet, thank you, is a description of the 4 categories, okay? And then within the categories, the goals and the sequence of them, so they're numbered. And then what phase we are in with each of those goals. And then I probably put a little status report in there if I've got a status report to give. And also some links. What you will be looking at in your groups, and everybody will get to see all 4 categories, are the phase 1 templates. So you'll get to see all the goals and the sequencing of them, but you'll be looking at the phase 1 templates that really describe what the goal is and what lives within the goal. Okay? And there'll be an indicator committee member in each of the groups. Megan will be in a group, I'll be in a group to answer any questions. And I'll let you guys take it over.
Okay, so we split, I mean, this looks simple, but wait until you get into the details of it. It's taken us quite a long time to get through it. So we're gonna split down into the 2 groups just to start. So we'll have one group meet over here with Jeff on proficiency and personalization. That's Erin, Jocelyn, Kelly, Dave, Colleen, and Ray. And then over here with Megan, starting with MTSS and SEL, is Jeff, Brendan, Russ, Barbara, Kevin, and myself. And we will switch after 20 minutes, so everybody will get the full complement. Did I get everybody? Oh, and you guys can go wherever you like.
And how about if we have the camera on one group
Right.
at a time, so that the people at home can see both?
Both presentations, that sounds like a good idea. Okay. Okay, so, the CIP will come back next month as an action item. We need to approve all of the phase 1 goals of the CIP, and it will keep coming back because it's gonna come back year after year after year as we move along. Were there any things in particular that jumped out at you that you could see as a board wanting to know more or see from the CIP on an annual basis? Indicators, systems? Aaron and I will keep chugging away on the.
I'd like to add that in addition to the annual snapshot, we will be providing the classroom data and the local data that is connected to each of those goals in the CIP. We've already started doing that with some of the proficiency stuff.
And you'll see under the full CIP, the proficiency data, the indicators committee has talked about presenting those indicators this year. Those are the ones we're most used to seeing, and we have the most data on. And I think is that April? May? I can't remember what month.
I have to check my note.
Yeah, that'll be coming up in the future. Any other thoughts on the CIP? Okay. 5.0, reports to the board. 5.1, committees, HR, labor relations.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
I think we're doing that.
So that you have nothing to update now. Okay, 5 indicators. We just did it.
This is how it's gonna go.
Okay, we're moving right along. Colt report.
Well, I had a note to turn to Jeff about the little piece he had about integrated field review, but he's already done that. I guess I would just point out, and I think he mentioned this, that we have teachers who participated who have now gone on to other schools, and I've run into them in the last 2 days when I've been around the schools. And they've said what a great experience it was to go to one school or another. And I think, Jeff, you were planning to bring them together, right? So I can't wait to hear what they have to say about, like, what their reflections are from going to.
Yeah, and I did actually fail to mention that we have a visiting team going out as well.
Yeah, and they're going to different schools.
schools.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting.
Like I go to mine in March, for instance.
Yeah, so, and at the end, everybody will come back together and I'll debrief. Megan, maybe you want to say something about the early ed piece that you've got in there?
So one of the things we're trying to do is give the board a deeper update on early ed periodically. We have Shelley Henson, who's our early ed director, who's been doing a significant amount of work kind of looking system-wide at the supports that we provide inside, the supports we provide externally, how we're maximizing our partnerships. And, you know, we serve a lot of kids in the early ed realm. We partner with over 40 programs at this point. We, you know, we were just, and Aline kind of alluded to kindergarten data.
It's Shelley who's doing that work for us.
Right, yep. She is able to locate, and when I mean locate, I mean we know something about far more kids coming into kindergarten than we ever had before. Her leadership team is doing a lot of visioning work, kind of determining what data we need to look at, and having really interesting conversations about, now that we can find more kids and know something about them, how are we making sure kindergarten teachers know how to use that information? So, happy to answer questions.
Jean, there's some.
Just in general, what does partnering look like?
So under Act 166, officially we partner with any program who is pre-qualified, that's a statewide definition of quality, and who has CVSD kids attending. And so at minimum, the partnership is Act 166 dollars flow to those schools. But in our region, because we've been working on early ed long before Act 166 existed and back when it was optional, we've created, and Shelley facilitates this in her role now, we have a consortium of those partner programs. So all those 40 partners meet with all of the school district reps 4 times a year, much more frequently these past 2 years actually because of implementation. So they actually come together, we do common professional development, we unpack things as they come down from the state. Sometimes we open up PD that's happening in our buildings. We might open up to the pre-K teachers in the town. We've co-sponsored. We had a grant last year that targeted several of those partners. So it's actually it's more than just our funds go out to 40 partners. And some partners are more active than others, but it's really good connection, and we're working to improve it.
We meaning Megan, are the problem solvers if something runs amok between the parents and the partner programs.
Yes, and
very often.
And that happens sometimes too.
And then I noticed we have the annual financial audit questionnaire. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Sure, but I just want to point out also that there's a little update on radon testing, which we've completed in all our schools, and also lead testing, which is in the news right now, but we already have our RFP out for our lead testing, which we had planned to do this year anyway. We do it over a 3-year cycle. This is the 3rd year, so we have the RFP out there. We've reached out to a contractor to do our testing for us. We're just kind of waiting now to make sure that we don't do something different than the state wants us to do, and right now the discussion at the state would be to split any mitigation costs, and I don't want to
preempt that.
Or get in a position where they say, well, we would have paid for half of your mitigation costs, but you went with the wrong tester. You know, so we're not going to slow down. We're going to go ahead and do the testing anyway. Our previous testing has all been well below action levels, but it's been 3 years, so we'll do them again. Yeah, the questionnaire is in here. This is a requirement of the state that each year we just look at our financial or fiscal practices. It's a self-assessment. It doesn't go anywhere. It just goes to us. And we learn a little bit each year. And it's in here for your review. I would say the only thing that's, because we have no finance director, we've had to move to some quarterly, some tasks that should be done monthly are being done quarterly. Not best practice, but it'll get us through until we get a new finance director. Other than that, I think we're in pretty good shape. Made a couple of changes from last year to improve, and I have a couple things I'd like to change for next year, so that's in here for your review. And it does need to be signed by the board, by Lynn, but it's really just a signature saying, I recognize that the work has been done. So.
How's the recruitment for the finance director
We just put it out on School Spring. Looking for resumes this month, so. For a July 1st start.
Anything else on the Colt? Principal's report? Student council?
You wrote it this month. She's just now finding this out.
Starting all the way back in January, we held Martin Luther King Jr. Flex Time events. So it was a 30-minute block where we had many different speakers, even student speakers, come in and talk about ways they engage in the community. And students were able to sign up with who they thought would be best for them and was beneficial to them. And so those turned out really well. We've done Penguin Plunge was earlier this month, and we had just under 200 students plunge. And we raised more than $35,000 for the Bushel Emergency. Can you talk about course catalogs?
Yeah, so another exciting thing that we've been doing in student council is trying to improve our course catalog. So the idea is to get a video to put on the website of every course at CVU and have both teachers and students talk about the course and what they see in it and why students should take it to improve the process of picking courses.
Wow.
And
That's a
upcoming,
big
we have our
project.
winter carnival Friday, half day.
Try Chris.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
I just
anything
have
else?
one-
Go ahead. Yeah.
One thing to say, just because Kyle was talking, I do want to say you did a great job at 8th grade parent orientation.
Oh, thank you.
And speaking. Did a nice job speaking in front of, I don't know, how many hundreds of nervous parents. And an equal number of middle school boys and girls that didn't want to be anywhere near their parents.
Here's one of them.
She walked into the building and just disappeared. Like she forgot, I was gonna sit over here and she and her friend sat over there. So I guess I gotta get used to that for the next 4 years.
Okay, 6.0, discussion matters, review procedure for seating a new Williston rep. So my understanding is that there is not anyone running for the Williston seat. So Sandy, thank you, Sandy, did a lot of research into figuring out exactly what we have to do now that we're a consolidated district. And there's a statute. There are basically two ways that we can seat a Williston rep. You could put it out on Front Porch Forum that if someone is a write-in candidate and receives 30 signatures or 30 write-ins, they automatically become the Williston rep. If that doesn't happen, the way that the statute is written is that within 30 days after the receipt, we have to notify the town that no one has taken that there's the vacancy. The Unified Union School Board, in consultation with the Williston Select Board, and that is not defined except to say in consultation with the Williston Select Board, shall appoint an eligible person to fill the vacancy until an election is held next year. So in my mind,
Wasn't this how we filled Mark's position with you?
so sort of. Basically, I think you asked me, but did we talk to the select board? I never talked to them.
Yeah, I think
We did. I think, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that we researched it and realized we needed to let them know.
If they be voted from the floor, like
No, there is no voting from the floor because it's Australian ballot.
Oh,
So can you guys find 30
You don't have
people to
Australian ballot.
vote for Kevin again?
He has to give his ball back.
And then he gets to do like your Sherman-esque LBJ speech.
So I kind of feel like to the Williston people, if you have somebody, and if you can find somebody who would be interested, but 30 people to then vote for them, that would be great. If not, we're gonna still have to find somebody. Williston is our biggest town. How can there not be?
I found like 2 or 3 people who have seemed interested and then they just fall.
Can someone post something on Front Porch Forum, just reminding people? And it probably,
The statute where you could, like, hit the third person over the head outside the Wilson Bagel Shop.
Like, what if someone just gets like 30 votes and they don't even know?
Then they're
They
on
can
the board.
decline.
They can decline. I was gonna say, so like, could Aaron and Brendan and I just like pick someone? Everyone, let's
You
put
call
some
it friends and you
votes.
call
Yeah.
it friends.
I would, my guess is that people have been happy with the Williston board reps in Williston. They've been happy with the work of the board, and so people are not going out to seek to unseat somebody. So I would just think that the right person hasn't heard.
Right.
You guys do such a
Is it-
fabulous job.
Is it something that, if something's gonna go on Front Porch Forum, is this something that, Aaron is doing as a private citizen, as a member of the board, or should there be something that the board is actually officially doing, posting some sort of notice?
That's a good
I
point.
think, we need to give some thought to that. I don't know the answer, and I don't think we need to vote on it, but
Probably from the board chair.
we should probably at least look at how
Can
that's
I
handled.
post in Williston?
Yeah.
No, but we can.
No, but you can,
Bonnie
because
can.
Sandy's coming.
See, you can.
We have all of
Oh, I
it.
thought you could across the district.
I heard from quite a few people that they read through about the budget stuff when it was on Front Porch
Me too.
Forum from you guys. So
Right.
it does get noticed.
I think the board,
All right,
I
well,
thought the board could cross boundaries.
I can only post on Charlotte,
We
Shelburne,
have,
and
we
Heinsberg,
can post it.
but you can,
We
through
can.
Sandy. All right, well,
You have to pay to.
You have to
Really?
pay to
Yeah.
post?
No,
We-
across them.
Well, board officials are different from individuals. You don't post as an individual.
They used to be. It's not the,
Not
it's
any-
not
not
the same
anymore.
as it used to be 5 years ago.
So is
I-
the district going to, somebody in central office gonna post it? Is that the?
We can do
Yep.
that, right?
So at this
Yeah,
point,
we're
does
figuring that out.
does someone have to be in a write-in? Is there not enough
No.
candidate on the ballot?
yes, that
Yeah, they
ship
have
has
signatures
sailed.
by
So
the
it'd
end
be
of
that they'd have
January.
to have.
Even if you found someone who was willing to be appointed, that would be helpful. If they don't want to go through the write-in thing, but they would be willing to be appointed, that would also solve the problem.
Have you guys gone to FAP and
Yeah,
you have?
Ah.
Okay.
But,
I'll reach out to a couple
3
of
times
them.
I've brought it.
Okay.
Somebody who, if you do find somebody who's willing to do it and wants to do it through write-in, at least in Shelburne, they can go stand out in front of the polling place for a couple of hours in the morning. Hi, I'm, yeah,
Right.
and
That's
that
minutes.
way they at least don't have to go door to door, or you guys don't all have to
Can I
get
s-
10
can you
each.
have a
Right.
sign,
Oh,
please?
whatever.
Write Kevin in the board.
We just tell our town clerk, and then she just tells people.
She would too.
All right,
So the
So-
first time that I ran as a write-in candidate and got 30 votes.
you did?
Yeah, because
Nobody else.
PTO came to me and was like, "Are you interested in doing this?" So
What did you know, right?
little did I know that
The rest is history.
I replaced Mary Catherine Jones, I think.
Yep. All right, I will write a Front Porch Forum post for a Williston chair, and then I guess send it to Bonnie. Okay, and we'll get that out. And if they don't get 30 votes, then we'll send out another one asking.
I didn't have to say it.
Okay, 6.3, board response to CVU racist and anti-Semitic graffiti. I've thought a lot about this, and I know we all have thought a lot about this, and I think I have forwarded everything that I have gotten to you all in the past 2 weeks. I sent, I think in one email, I sent you the document that actually Elaine generated, kind of as a brief outline. It's not all inclusive of what happens in our district in terms of currently diversity, inclusion training. I sent you our policies, which I have looked at quite a bit over the past 2 weeks, trying to find better direction. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I think there are some possibilities there for the board to work on. And what I didn't include, because I thought of it after the fact and I had already bombarded you all with enough emails, was our definition of equity that we adopted at our retreat, which really, the last statement, equity involves disrupting inequitable practices, acknowledging biases, employing practices that reflect the reality that all students will learn, and creating inclusive multicultural school environments for adults and children. I mean, at the end of the day, this is what we said we support. And, you know, it's an opportunity for us to put words into action, I think. But I also recognize that there's a lot of action that has to happen. And so I think as a starting point, I would like to get some input from the board as to what you would like your response, what you would like the board's initial response. This is gonna, I think, I know it's gonna be an ongoing conversation because there are a lot of different pieces to it. But the immediate response to the racist and anti-Semitic graffiti, I would open, I'd like to hear people's ideas.
I think that, you know, clearly indicating this is not acceptable behavior, it will not be tolerated. And, you know, maybe linking back what we've heard from the community and how we're going to at least start these discussions. But, you know, I think that one of the things that came out today, at least from my perspective, is that there's a ton of work that needs to be done around this. And I think it's too early for us to say this is exactly what we're gonna do, because I don't think one thing is gonna fix this. I think there's gonna be a multiple, you know, I think this is gonna be just a larger project, and that's just my opinion.
Is there policy around what will happen if the individual or individuals who did these acts is caught? Like what will happen?
So the closest policy we have was H2.
You know, what is H2?
It's our, is that our hazing harassment? Oh, no, that's, no, H2 is the one that says about political, yeah.
Take notes around the
Yeah.
flag. I would say nothing in particular on this particular incident, but it would fall under general disciplinary actions for students.
Fits within the harassment
That
parameters,
yeah.
because it's about race or religion, or, so it does probably fit in the category of harassment investigation.
One of the reasons that parents were motivated to come together and to address this was a reaction to the two messages that came out from Adam once these incidents occurred. The first message was perceived as very strong, very clear, that there is zero tolerance for these kinds of actions and that there will be repercussions. The second message appeared to be equivocating in some ways, in the sense that there was some discussion about the individual who had made the swastika and the fact that he had come forward and that he had shown remorse, and some sense that not that he was that the behavior was being excused, but that there was a sense that just by acknowledging that one took this action, that then everything was okay with that, or at least made better. The feeling was not to be critical of these messages of Adam as he wrote these messages, because this is very, very difficult stuff, period, and very hard to communicate, and no one is presuming that they have the right answer in terms of how to do this, but it just felt that if the message is clear and strong that these kinds of actions will not be tolerated in school and that there will be consequences for these actions, that's very clear, and people hopefully have then a clear understanding of it. So, my personal hope is that whatever the board adopts in terms of a message that goes out to the community, that it will echo that first message that Adam wrote, because I think it was very powerful. One other piece to this that is being acknowledged is that it's very difficult to find the balance between how do you message strongly the concern that one has about these actions to the majority population without turning them off, if you will, while at the same time you are messaging strongly enough to those who are affected by these things so that they feel like that people are taking these things seriously. And how do you find that? How do you find that balance? And so this is a challenging responsibility, but certainly one that I'm sure that we can undertake and figure out.
I think that's a really good point, is that no matter what we do, we have to balance.
You have to be careful not to offend one group to make another group feel good, but because then you're dealing with another problem, I guess. So it's really, either way, this isn't acceptable behavior, and how are we going to communicate that out in a way that is stern and equitable, that doesn't isolate another group?
I actually just want to clarify, because I think I took it a little the opposite of the spirit of the letter. The concern was, you want the way I understood it is that the response should be firm enough, knowing that you might run the risk of offending a majority in supporting in supporting a minority, and be okay with doing that. So that's the way I understood that.
Yes, with the addition of how do you continue, though, to keep everyone involved in the discussion.
Yes.
So it's this challenging, I wouldn't call it exactly a middle ground, as you're saying, because I completely agree with what you're saying. But it's trying to do this, and it's trying to message in such a way that you keep all parties involved, but while still being very firm and very, very clear.
Because if you offend the majority, those individuals will not be as likely to help with the resolution of the problem, I guess.
I don't know if offend is the right word. Because I think that, and as someone who is in the majority here, like, nobody should be worried about offending me. Like, I think offend is the wrong word. I think that we want to keep all people in the conversation, and we want to be able to move something forward. But at the same time, I think that we as a community, for people who are in the majority, have to be okay with being uncomfortable. Because we should be uncomfortable.
And the only way, just to add to that, I think you have to imagine yourself in those shoes. Like even Adam writing that letter, like, how do you feel if you are one of those minorities and you're seeing that? How would you feel? And it's not easy.
Yes.
This is huge. I mean, it's going to take a while. Some people are not comfortable even just talking about the subject. Race. Like even our teachers we have, they're not comfortable. How do you relate that? One thing that I appreciate, and I wish this could be standardized, is different schools have these small groups related to race and inclusion and all that, where they're bringing in parents, administration, and they're bringing in also students. I wish that would be standardized. I attend the ones in Shelburne, and I think we're at a good start. We are at a good start. It's going to take a while, but if we have that support from the administration. We have one or both the principals attending these meetings. We have teachers who are committed. They are there. And then our parents are trickling in. You know, some are attending frequently. And I feel if this was standardized, because I know like a parent was saying, oh, in Williston, we're already doing this. Oh, okay. Well, we are just beginning, but how do we get all that? Because I think with starting with that, getting the buy-in from the teachers and everything, we should not see these things. And, you know, as one of the parents was saying, you know, a high schooler should know the consequences of doing such a thing.
No.
Oh, you're looking at me? Oh. Thank you. I appreciate the comments so far. It seems to me that there are probably two things that we can do. One is have some kind of immediate response from the board within the month, or I don't know how quickly something can come out from the board. But it seems to me that there's a lot of interest from board members, not just from tonight's conversation or the past couple weeks, but over the past 2 years, 3 years, you know, when we were talking about a merger, what can we do? And these issues have been at the, I'm not going to say the forefront of our conversation, but you know, we've moved them forward, and I think we're at a point where, as a board, we need to say, yes, this is a priority. You know, these behaviors, if they're happening, it's, you know, that's just like on the surface. That's what we see. We don't know, we don't understand the depth of what some people's experiences are in our communities, and we need to address this as an educational priority. I had a professor who described multicultural education. You know, it's a long process to develop understanding, and he described it as it's like swimming across a pool, and you're just about to touch the edge, and all of a sudden the pool flips around, and you gotta keep swimming. So that for me, that metaphor works, because it's like it's never done. The work is never done, and I think that's what we were hearing from the community tonight, those who showed up, is that the work is deep and needs to be pervasive.
I would,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say, I'm just going to comment to like immediate action, because I agree. I think actually some of the work we should, in spirit of our consolidation, we were excited to get going on. I mean, to really get into diversity and inclusion and equity and education and what it means to our community and the opportunities that exist. So that I want to enter into as a proactive board member, not a reactive board member, because I was really excited to start digging into some of that. So I'll step back. The first action, I think, unequivocally, is about school safety. And this is, when we talk about the incidents that happen, I go right to the most basic level. I need to know that our students, when they walk into our buildings, feel safe, period. And as a school board member, I want the message to be very clear that we are an inclusive community, and when you come into our buildings as a member of our community, no matter what race you are, gender, you are safe in our community. And that should be our message. And then underneath our message, Elaine or Adam or any other teacher can add their voice. And I think that's an immediate. And
thought deeply and longly about this. Who are we addressing? What is the purpose of our statement? And are these just words? If our building administrators don't follow through, is there any point even in saying anything at all? I guess I
Well,
see
I just want to speak up for the building administrators and say, yes, they will follow through, because
Yeah, I know they will.
and they wouldn't disagree with a single thing that has been said here.
Yeah, no,
You know,
I'm sure they will.
it is really difficult to thread the needle you know, with the little, you know, the smallest hole you can imagine on that needle when you're dealing with everyone. And you're the building principal, and what you want is, more than anything, what you just said, that like for every single human being that walks into our schools, they feel like, I belong here, I feel safe here, I'm respected here. So I just want to make sure, because there might be people listening and they hear that and they think that maybe we have administrators who are looking the other way.
No.
I knew you didn't mean that, but I just want, it's important that we say that, like every one of our administrators, we had a big conversation about this on, a week ago Monday at LEAD. And it's work that we've been doing. I mean, the table that Lynn sent you, we did that last spring and we updated it this fall. And before this happened, I was emailing with Rebecca Haslam about like, what can you do for us as a whole community in the different schools? So it's something that we do care about. We embrace it. And I think it's important for everybody to know that.
I just hope that our response, Kelly said, is very clear. I think the very beginning statement, the sentence of the policy, the first sentence, you know, it speaks to our belief, but I also hope that I would like to see our response acknowledge the long term, the long game, that I worry there will be a focus on immediate, you know, the speaker is going to come, it's not going to be a fix by a speaker or a few speakers this year, and so, and I think the flag may become a focal point of discussion that blurs the larger discussion around ongoing efforts. And, you know, are we auditing our curriculums for cultural competency? Are we, you know, in their statement, in the Racial Alliance Committee's statement, I lost it, they talked about curriculum specifically. Our curriculum and culture do not educate or advocate for racial equity nearly enough. That we would acknowledge and commit, and that those are not just empty words, that we are coming, that remains board work and district work.
And I just want to echo that, you know, with a state that's 98% white, we have an obligation to help our very white students understand the diversity of the world that they live in.
So the fact that our students are going out into the world, most likely, and how well are we preparing them for the diverse world that they're going into? Maybe 98% white here, but this does not represent what the world is today.
Mm-hmm. Can I just point out, I don't know if you actually read the Colt report, but the legislative update, H3, is the ethnic studies bill, and everything I hear from Montpelier is that's going to pass. And so that's going to address what you're talking about. And in terms of having to review our curriculum and make sure that it's embedded in the curriculum wherever it can be. And then the other piece is the meeting that I referenced earlier that Adam, Jeff, and I, and I'm hoping to add a couple principals, are hoping to have with Rebecca Haslam, is about, like, as a system, what is the whole thing that we need to do? Not who is the speaker that we need to bring in. In fact, she won't do that. I've already had a couple conversations with her, and she said, you know, really, first I need to find out where are you, what have you already done, and then map out something. So she's already working with Shelburne. So they jumped on fast. Everybody's interested. They just went first. But the meeting we're going to have is to look at the whole system and see. So I think that we're not looking at it as like, let's just plug in something and think that we can put a check mark by it.
I wonder, at our retreat, I know it's kind of early to start talking about our retreat and adding things to the agenda, but at the retreat, we did spend a good deal of talking about equity and trying to figure out a working definition. I wonder if it makes sense, because this isn't just right now, it is like a long-term thing. If it would make sense to have something on the agenda and maybe have someone who can come in and help facilitate a conversation with us about race and just everything, minority versus majority, how to help kids not just be colorblind, like how to educate our students so that they're meeting the things that we want them to meet. And I don't know, just having a professional come in and help us work through some of this.
Inclusion and diversity. Go ahead, sorry.
So bringing it kind of back to the question I think is what kind of statement should we
sitting here listening, and I agree, there's no statement we can make about how to solve this problem. There's so much going on, there's so much we need to figure out, work with everybody around the table to do. I think the statement really needs to be more of an affirmation of our values. And an affirmation of expectations of the values among ourselves, our administrators, our students, and our community. Let's not forget, sometimes we joke about it, but we were elected by our community to be here, and we're expected to lead. And we should just be leaders. We should put it out there and say, this is not the behavior we expect. This is what we do expect. This is who we expect it from, and we stand behind it. It doesn't need to be a solution. It needs to be a statement.
I think Kevin's going to help you write that.
Well, I think Erin pointed out, and she's already said it, I'll just say it again, but the first paragraph of F34, the policy on harassment, says what we are committed to providing, and it goes back to what Kelly said with respect to safety in our schools, and so we could make almost a two-sentence statement that could go out that would address what Kevin has said and everyone else.
What do you think? I I can walk now, so I'm not stuck sitting and lying down, but I still do spend a lot of time on the computer. Burlington came out with a joint statement from the school board and the superintendent. When they were talking about equity and inclusion after the Charlottesville incident 2 summers ago. Any thoughts about a joint statement?
Maybe we throw Adam on there too?
I don't know so much Adam, nothing against Adam, but I just see as the leaders of the CVSD.
Okay, from the top.
I think it would be.
Good point.
Executive leadership plus board.
I just want to echo what you're saying, and I think these recent incidents at CVU, it's important that they're identified, because I think that it really does capture people's attention and make them think about what is going on right now. But I think it's so essential that we craft a statement where everyone understands that we're talking about every single school in our district, every single student, that we're not just focused on high school. I think that's really essential. One other, this is a little bit tangential, but Lynn, you mentioned in an email that there were a couple of incidents last week again, and I didn't see any communication about that. I don't know if I missed that general communication that went out to the public.
From Adam?
Right, I did not see that, and if I've missed that, I apologize, but I really believe strongly that every time there's an incident, that needs to go out to people.
I disagree 100%.
Okay.
I think, I guess my question is, what is the motivation of the person who's doing this? Are they expressing some hatred, or are they merely trying to stir up a hornet's nest? And if they're trying to just get some attention or stir up the hornet's nest by sending this out to the public, they're winning.
But
It actually encourages them to do more.
I would respectfully disagree with that, though. I don't think the motivation matters, because regardless, if the general public knows or does not know, the students in the school are going to know. So the students who are being directly affected or see that as an aggression towards them or is affecting their safety in the school, regardless of what the motivation is, it's still having that effect on them, and that's unacceptable.
I agree, but do we want to encourage this person to continue to do this by giving him publicity? I assume it's a fellow.
How do we know that it's a person? And how do
Or
we know?
are these people?
I will just say that from my experience with my own children, it's not ever one person.
Okay.
There are problems across the board.
Sure.
I think to Jocelyn's point, when these incidents are not identified in public, then those who have been affronted by them have been frightened or anxious by them. If nothing is publicly identified, there is then the sense that there's a desire to keep these things quiet.
I
And
think,
I think that that's the wrong message to send.
I think the student body should be addressed. But I don't think,
As a parent, I would want to know
or
that these
perhaps
things
the
are
parents
happening.
also, but as a newspaper headline, I think it's encouraging people to continue their actions.
Perhaps we could look into what best practice is. I think we're gonna run into a lot of questions where we're new at this and we shouldn't make big mistakes if there's smart people out there who can help us.
Nice call.
In regards to best practices in a response, or where we.
Yeah, I just don't know the answer to this question. Is, what's the best way? And
There have been multiple articles. in
exactly, that's my
public
point. My
papers,
point
right?
exactly. Let's go do the research and
And I would address, the community is having a discussion, and whether we want to communicate it internally amongst ourselves or to our schools, it is absolutely, we're a part of the community.
I'm lost right now, I'm sorry, I missed.
Let's bring it back to,
I'm focusing on
tangential
our
here.
response that we're gonna give to the community, and I think I'm hearing that's what we're gonna do. There's no, everyone is on page with doing that, right? We're not discussing whether or not we should respond, right? Okay.
and we had in referencing,
Yeah, I have the
Dave
hazing
and
policy,
Karen
the
said.
definition, our definition
a
of
lot of notes.
equity that we've defined, that needs to be in it. Brendan?
Jean didn't, I don't know if she said it loud enough for everybody to hear, but I think she has a wonderful idea of her and her colleague Mark looking and figuring out what best practice is and determining, you know, if somebody's been in this situation before and crafted a letter that was successful to the community, what can we steal from that?
well, I didn't really mean we were gonna do that for the letter. I was just talking
No,
about
I'm
this.
just saying, but no, but I took it a little step
I
further, I don't know, you know?
The worst thing that we can do is have a canned response that follows a footprint of someone else's. I think that
I don't think it needs to be
the
canned.
language in our policy, I think we can speak for ourselves, and we can send a message that the board chair feels is responsible, and we can choose whether or not to vote to send it.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be how we did you were chair, when we did the Parkland response.
Yeah, I consulted with expert board members, and Kelly wrote a great article. I mean, in my opinion, there's three statements. There's the first paragraph of the harassment
yeah.
policy. There's how Kelly put,
Safety.
that she expects the school to be safe, and then the third is the fourth bullet that's on our equity policy. It's very, I think it's simple,
Affirming.
it's direct, and it gets to the point. I think we could,
I just repeat it. You know, we
Yeah.
have these things in place, or,
I also
but-
think it's important, even if it's just a sentence of saying that we are gonna be holding ourselves responsible as a board to continue to work on, look at this and do some, to work on it for the future. Just so people don't think just because
Right,
these
this is
couple
the
of
first.
incidents happen, we're reacting, we're not gonna be, we're not gonna be proactive.
could we draft something and then discuss it on March 5th in our meeting, and then hopefully release it at that point?
Could we draft and comment in Google and do it sooner? I personal, I totally agree with Kelly, is that it should be timely and it should be authentic. And I think that what is very powerful about Adam's statements is that they are very authentic and they are very well written and they are very heartfelt, and they're not trying to follow, I don't know the best policy exists for this, but our best practices, but they are raw and real and honest, and I think that's exactly how to respond. I understand we're a board, not a principal, so maybe there's a little bit more that goes into that response, but perhaps we could, have the opportunity to respond on Google, but I would hate for us to wait until March 5th to respond.
yeah, 'cause
So
that's
I
like a
think the
month.
tricky part would be not to be doing board business online. So that would mean that you have a document, and maybe Lynn is the owner of the document, and you individually can provide input to Lynn, but you can't share it with everyone else, because that is actually illegal. So you can't really be doing that. You shouldn't ever be sending everybody emails, right? You need
Can we
to be
charge a
really
team of
careful.
4 people?
But you could charge somebody to put it together and then ask to send responses to one person. Everybody can respond, but it shouldn't be collectively.
Reply all.
Do
What-
not reply all.
Can we, or a
What's
team
up?
of 5?
Go ahead.
What's obvious to me in this discussion and other ones that we've had in the past is, we need to have some sort of protocol on how we can respond rapidly to things that require a rapid response. And I don't know what that looks like, and Elaine obviously brought up a very good point about, doing board business by email and that sort of thing. And we're not gonna solve that as part of getting a communication out, but we do need to figure something out.
I wrote that down.
How can we respond?
Well, you can always call a special meeting. That's,
Ask to convene a committee of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Just to draft this, to bring it to the board.
Right.
You know,
But it's almost like that could or should be a standing committee rather than an ad hoc every time.
Well, in the future, maybe.
Yes.
In the future, but for this time.
we used to have a
Yeah.
communications committee, right? All right. Are there 3 people, 3 or 4 people who would like to volunteer to get together in the next week or so to do this work?
I will if we can work it.
I can actually write you a draft and just
Mm,
send it to.
I think that's a great idea.
I already have a draft on my computer at home, I just didn't
I like what you had to say, Kelly.
Do you want to send it, is there any, all right, so Aaron, the 3 of us, anyone else?
I'd be happy to.
When are you leaving?
You're not leaving.
We're just gonna squeeze it out.
My wife's back there, like going, no.
I recognize that next week is vacation, that's why I bring this up, so.
I'm going out of town on Saturday, or I would have, if people can meet before Saturday, I would happily be part of something, but I also put things on for Saturday. Saturday is not very helpful.
Why don't,
You don't need to meet in person.
no, so why doesn't,
Google Doc with
right, so the 4 of us,
that's all I can see.
okay.
It's like a
And then-
Google Doc that's open and a phone.
And then we will get
Conference.
a finalized draft to the full board prior to the 5th for everyone to look at. Does that work? Okay.
Once this
Do-
response is completed, what does the dissemination of the response look like? Like how does it go out and how does that happen?
How did we do Parkland?
How do we do Parkland? I sent it to every, the editors of all of our local papers, the Burlington Free Press, the Vermont Digger. I sent it to all of our, the state legislature.
I remember that.
Mhm.
And we sent
And
it
then
to the schools to put in their
It did,
newsletters?
there were links to all of the school, publications. And it was on Front Porch Forum with links to the papers.
It was a broad press release,
And
very broad.
Sandy, you have all of that, right?
that letter,
Yeah.
I just will say to that letter from Parkland, was the precursor to our resolution.
Right.
Right, our resolution, and then your letter, well, your letter came first, so we wrote your letter. And then we wrote a board letter with the resolution, that's it.
And now we're going to combine Elaine with the board to do all that. And I would just say, I think that's a good first step. There's so much more I think we need to do with this. Just like I said, our policies don't need to be looked at with a different lens. I think we could use maybe some additional policies.
Or
Seattle.
just enforce our policies that exist.
I think we need to add some language to them, because if you go look for inclusion, diversity, and equity, there's not a lot of that in our policies. And I think, this is just me, I love our definition of equity. I wish that we could make it more formal. I wish that there was a way to put that into policy as a belief or as a value, whoever, I can't remember who was talking about values, so that it's always there. Seattle did a nice, there are lots of examples. So the policy committee, or maybe we have a separate diversity, inclusion, and equity committee of the board. I don't know. I think that there are some, I think there are more steps that we need to take, but I think this will be a good first response, but stay tuned. Is everyone on board with?
The only question I have is, do we need to wait, do we need to wait until March 5th, or is there a way for all of us to just sort of nod our head and say if we've got 3 people, or however many, and they're comfortable with an output, does it really need to come back to everybody again before it can be released?
I mean, is there anyone on
at
the
you.
board that would be opposed to that?
So you would have to have a meeting to take a vote if you want to approve it. If you want a formal approval of the board, you'd have to get 6 or 7 of you together at least.
But does it even need to be
Emergency
formally
meeting.
approved by the board? I guess
We can charge the
if we're going
committee
to,
now.
if we're going to have it coming from the board, then I suppose in some way it needs that stamp of approval, but, what's the fastest way, most efficient way to get that?
Here's what I think is the fastest way, depending on how quick you can turn the letter around and how many people are gonna be gone during vacation or have access to a phone. But you could develop the letter, write the letter. You could send it to everyone and ask them to send any, concerns, whatever, edits to Lynn. Then when you've got the final letter, you could have a call-in vote. So you could set a time, no matter where you are in the world, 4 o'clock on Friday, or 3 o'clock on Friday, or whenever, you call in, and once everybody's on the phone, you just call the question. That's legal, you can do that.
But
As long as it's
I don't think I don't think it needs to be that complicated. I mean, we didn't
Well-
get together on Friday on the phone to release our comments to put on Front Porch Forum for our budget. It's the same type of,
It
it's
just
the,
depends if you wanna have that board vote to say, the board voted on this.
well, that's why I just said, I don't think there's anybody here that would disagree with a statement that came out of this group before that's gonna
So
write
you're
this.
charging the 4 of us on behalf of the board to write this and distribute it?
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
When you get to actions.
I agree, I trust
I would
that
agree
group.
with
Okay.
So you'll wanna add.
Okay.
actions. What you're going to write next.
Oh, I'm on actions, okay.
7.2, and do you want to add 7.3, add a meeting?
Oh, yeah. Okay. 7.1, set the board retreat date. The recommendation is to do it May 30th, which I think is a Thursday.
May
Is there a
30th.
motion? Do I have a motion to set the retreat date? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Everybody's going to be here April 30th?
No.
May 30th?
I'm going to be in Portugal,
You're going to be in Portugal?
yes,
Yeah, it's Thursday.
and the following week, so you can't move it back a week. It doesn't work either. Sorry.
It's gonna be an awesome retreat.
Go
Who you
so
spar
fast.
with? You won't have any fun.
The 30th looks okay for people? Okay.
Well, we had a second date picked at one point, didn't we?
No, we chose the 30th.
I think.
I had
See,
the
people laugh at me
6th,
when I
I
put
had
this in
Thursday,
January,
June
but-
6th as a second.
And I know I can't.
I'll be gone then, too.
I could do
Yeah.
that.
You could do
I
the 6th.
effectively hacked
He's not
Russ's
gonna do it.
calendar to figure out what
Rather
dates we should use.
Maybe you can call in.
2 weeks of vacation.
I think the 30th, I think May 30th is great.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 7.2, do I have a motion to authorize Kelly, Lynn, Aaron, and Kevin to author a board response to the incidents at CVU on behalf of the board?
I
would
think you
just
have a
say-
first and a second.
I would just say, just provide a copy to every board member.
Yep.
We don't necessarily need to comment in order to release it, but just have a copy.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 7.3, am I adding a date to this, or just to add the meeting?
Just add the meeting, right? Didn't you say, I thought the conversation was around adding that, discussion. Well, so you don't even need to do that.
I don't think so. I don't
You're
think I
right.
need an action for that.
Because we do discussion regularly.
We will let you know about that at the meeting in March, and Kyle is going to communicate it to the REC kids. Thank you. What?
Not to be a stickler, but whether the timing was right or wrong, there's a valid motion out that hasn't been resolved. So we either need to vote on it, table it, or withdraw it.
Mhm.
And that's the motion I made earlier.
All right, to add the discussion item in March.
So,
Are you willing to withdraw it?
it's your motion, you can withdraw.
Yeah.
Does my second have to withdraw too? No.
Ye-
So I just have to withdraw.
Yeah.
I move to withdraw.
Okay.
It's the easiest thing
can't
because
leave it
you're
together.
gonna have the, you are
Right.
gonna have the
In other words,
conversation.
I'm assured you're gonna have a conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna
We just
add
have
it,
to figure out
and we don't need a motion for that
to add a discussion.
on March 5th.
Okay. Oh, geez. Okay, 8.0 consent matters. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No opposed? Okay, next meeting dates. We have our annual meeting, March 4th at 5 in CVU room, not sure. Usually we have it over back where we had one of the budget meetings, across from the auditorium. That's a Monday. That's at 5. And then it's usually over by 5:01, but, yeah, it's at 5 o'clock here.
Do we need a quorum for that meeting?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so just, I mean,
Yes.
I will try to attend.
Even though it's a
but just
short
so
meeting, we
everybody
do need people
understands
there.
that-
Sandy will check to make sure we have a quorum. Yeah, you have to.
5 PM. Then,
Can I make a quick recommendation, since there's gonna be a discussion at that March 5th meeting, maybe move it from 5 to 5:30 to give the people who are working till
Discussion's
5.
on Tuesday.
no, so this first meeting is on Monday, March 4th. The discussion, if we do it, would be on Tuesday, March 5th.
What's March 4th again? I apologize.
Annual, that's okay, the annual meeting.
Annual meeting.
And that's
It's
been
a
warned and
quick meeting, but
can't
we
be
need
changed.
A quorum.
I can do it at 5:15 if something comes up.
Committee meeting is March 5th at 6. This superintendent evaluation is not going to be March 5th. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, because we've
Later.
added the other
Yep.
discussion.
And then our regular meeting is March 19th at 6 PM. All right, so do I have a motion to go into executive session for negotiations contracts?
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you.